So what would a healthy insulin-resistant dinner look like? Let me show you. Now we're on to the third video of our best meals for insulin resistance, the best dinners for an insulin-resistant diet. Now I'd love for you to share your recipes. You can put them down below in the comments. So dinner's a little bit different from breakfast and lunch. You still need a similar amount of protein, fat, and low glycemic carbs, but dinner is where we're going to make the big changes. First, let's talk about insulin resistance a little. Insulin resistance is when your insulin is not able to get into your cells to deliver glucose or sugar into the body to make energy. And when that happens, the sugar fills into your bloodstream and your liver then has to convert it into some kind of storage mechanism, which is triglycerides or triple sugars, which either get stored in your liver or in your body fat, especially around your belly. So, in order to reverse insulin resistance, you've got to eat less sugar calories than you're expending. Luckily, you get the biggest bang for your buck at dinner. And that's because eating carbohydrates after dark is one of the biggest issues in increasing your insulin resistance and gaining weight. Why? Because your metabolism is slowest after dark. You begin to make melatonin, which naturally slows down your metabolism. And if you're eating any carbohydrates and you're not expending that energy, your blood sugars rise and eventually your hemoglobin A1C increases, which is a sign that your insulin resistance is getting worse. So dinner is where you're going to avoid those high glycemic carbohydrates. Now remember, high glycemic carbohydrates are those that are turned into sugar very, very quickly versus low glycemic carbohydrates, which we want to focus on. They get turned into sugar very slowly, so there's not a spike in your blood sugar. Like breakfast and lunch, you're going to still have 1/3 protein, 1/3 fat, and 1/3 carbohydrates for dinner. You're splitting your plate into thirds, but remember, you're not going to have as much volume as fat as you have protein and carbs because fat is twice as calorically dense as protein and carbs. You're only going to have about 1/6 of your plate with fat on it. So for dinner, what are your best carbohydrate choices? This is where we're going to avoid the starchy carbohydrates altogether. Unless you're an underweight insulin-resistant patient, you're going to definitely avoid starchy carbohydrates. So no yams, no potatoes, no grains, no starchy veggies. Maybe some beans, but preferably it would be at lunch. You're going to focus just on vegetables, lots of leafy greens, lots of colorful vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, and we want to cook them, because they're the most nutritious, either roasted or sauteed in olive oil. Try to avoid dinner salads. Plan to have those at lunchtime if you must. Raw vegetables take so much longer to break down, you will for sure crave sugar after dinner. So eat your veggies cooked. I like to make extra roasted vegetables for dinner, extra sauteed or even stir-fried vegetables because I can use them later for lunch the next day. Maybe throw them into that salad. So all vegetable counts except your starchy vegetables. I'm not as strict with my patients with insulin resistance on avoiding things like beets and carrots or winter squashes. Because they're so nutritionally dense and they're more of a moderate glycemic index food, I think they should be included in your diet. Just be sure that's not the only vegetable you're eating for dinner. Your protein, on the other hand, can be an animal source like chicken, turkey, fish, pork, beef, eggs, or it can come from a vegetable source like beans or tofu or tempeh. But remember, they're carbohydrate dense, so taking up some of your carbohydrates. You have lots of different choices for your protein sources. And remember, you always have to be sure you're getting enough protein to maintain your lean body mass. Your lean body mass consists of both your muscles and your bones and the rest of the tissues in your body, everything but your body fat. We talked about how to calculate your protein needs in my insulin-resistant breakfast video. Just be sure you're getting enough protein to maintain that lean body mass because it's so much more metabolically active, and people with a higher lean body mass have lower insulin resistance scores. So if you're going to reverse insulin resistance, you've got to eat enough protein to maintain that lean body mass. Now third, it's fat. Fat is not bad. Fat is actually what your cells need to make healthy membranes and what you use to make hormones. You just have to be sure you're getting the right kinds of fats. The main fat we're avoiding are trans fats, which are anything fried. Trans fats have basically been denatured by high heat, and that makes them really bad for your body. You can't use them properly. So you want real fat, at least 1/3 of your fat coming from saturated fats. That includes animal products like butter, dairy, any fat that's on the meat, chicken, or fish. That all counts. And then 2/3 of your fat is coming from plant sources like super healthy olive oil that you can cook your vegetables in to maintain those nutrients. If you're going to cook at heat higher than 450 degrees, please use avocado oil. It tolerates the heat much better than olive oil. Olive oil is better for roasting and sauteing. Coconut, nuts, and seeds are also excellent additions to fat in your insulin-resistant diet. And for dinner, you can use nuts and seeds to make pesto. Pesto is a tasty blend of nuts, olive oil, garlic, and some kind of herb, traditionally basil, but it can be any kind of greens, even kale or spinach counts, or herbs like cilantro. And usually you'll add a hard cheese like Parmesan cheese, but you don't have to if you want to make a vegan pesto. Pesto is a great nutritious fat which you can use as a sauce, either to dress up your meat or chicken or fish, or even on your vegetables. So here's some examples of some delicious insulin-resistant dinners. Why don't you stir fry up some peppers, broccoli, green beans, onions, garlic with chicken or fish, or roast some vegetables like butternut squash, fennel, beets, and cauliflower, roasted in olive oil with a little salt and pepper. A little roasted meat, pork, beef, or chicken, I roast them all together in one pan. Why don't you check out our Hormone Reboot training where I share all of my recipes. I'll put the link below. And I want you to stay tuned for my next video for more great health tips.